Okay, hello everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, depending on where you are in the world. Thank you for joining today's session. Really excited to be here. Thank you. I want to say a big thank you to our panelists, our keynote speaker, for joining today's session. We really appreciate. Thank you to also the panelists and our participants, our awesome participants. My name is Adako Anita Ofiwo, and I'm the SPE D&I Assistant Chair for the SPE Lagos section. Using this opportunity to welcome everyone, our distinguished resource persons, starting with Professor Wumi Ledare. Thank you, welcome. Welcome to Mrs. Muji as well. Thank you for joining. Thank you to Mrs. Amina for joining. Thank you, Buchi, moderator. Thank you, Isioma, in her absence. She's going to join us shortly. Thank you to all participants who have joined today. We promise that this is really going to be an engaging and insightful session. Just before I hand over to the section to give our opening remarks, I just want to share a few safety tips and the session etiquette. So we implore everyone stay focused, pay attention to the discussions that would be happening today. We also, that if you have any questions, you can really drop them in the chat box. We have volunteers who will be looking over that and, helping us with that. We also ask that you take time to take a few breaks in between the sessions. So maybe every 1 hour or 5 minutes, try to take a stretch break, which is really important because this is going to be a long session. We also ask that you remove every distraction that you have. Maybe put your phone on silent so that we can all, be attentive and focused. Please, if you're not talking, and if you want to add to the discussion or have any comment, kindly use the raise of hand button. Once you do that, we will call on you to make your contribution and engage in the discussion. So again, I just want to say a big thank you. And also to note that today's theme will be discussing a very important and vital topic in our industry today. And the theme is diversity, equity, and inclusion, a trial critical to energy sustainability. This would run for 2 hours, and then we'll bring it to close. Just for hand over, I'll say sit back, enjoy the session, engage in the session, and be interested so that the session will end. Thank you once again, and welcome everyone to the Lagos section panel session. Priscilla, over to you for the opening remarks.
Thank you, Adaku. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of the SPE Legal Section Board and members of SPE Legal Section, I welcome you to the SPE Legal Section Diversity and Inclusion Week. The D&I Week comprises this event that we're at today and a fireside chat that's been scheduled for another time to bring together senior and younger professionals in a setting that promotes dialogue, network, and speed mentoring in a bid to equip our young professionals to be better prepared for the future. At SPE Legal Section, we're passionate about driving conversation around overcoming barriers, fostering inclusion, and creating a culture where everyone feels like they matter. In this regard, that we have brought together some of the brilliant minds in our industry to speak to us today about how we can leverage DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion to promote energy sustainability. And so, on this note, I want to especially thank our resource persons, our keynote speaker, Professor Wumi Ledare, or Prof, as we often call him, our panelist, Mrs. Amina Danmadami, who is going to be our first female SPE Nigeria Council Section Chairperson, Mojisola Iyamabo, Eside Anosike, Isioma Asiojo Tubo, I am Okoli, our very own section director, and our moderator. We have a brilliant moderator, Onyebuchi Okereke, who will direct today's conversation. I have no doubt that this event will be worth every time that you spend with us today. Please continue to follow us on all social media platforms to engage with us and to get up-to-date information on all of our event programs. Thanks for your continued support of SPE Lagos, and I wish us all an enjoyable session. Thank you very much. Adaku, over back to you.
So Emmanuel, thank you, Priscilla. Emmanuel will take us through the icebreaker session. Just let's try to be very interactive. It's going to be an interactive one. Let's try to be engaging. And Emmanuel, over to you.
Thank you very much. Good morning, everyone. I'm very, very excited to be here for a number of reasons, but particularly because, you often hear diversity and inclusion, but it's often spoken about from, a civil perspective or from a political correctness perspective. But here we are told now that it's a business imperative for diversity and inclusion. We are being told that diversity and inclusion is the foundation on which energy sustainability is built. And so my job here is very simple. I just need to put conversations in perspective. And we're going to do that with a little game. And the name of the game is called Picture This. Perspectives matter. And I'm going to need your help in this. If you are here on this call, it means that diversity and inclusion is important to you. And so if that's important to you, well, I'm inviting you to be very inclusive in this game. And so the way we're going to do this, the instructions are simple. There are 3 steps. So the first step, an image will be displayed on the screen. The image is displayed on the screen. I want you to pay attention to your head and your heart. So pay attention to what comes to your mind and pay attention to the emotion that that image elicits. And what I want you to do is to type what that image means to you. You'll type it in the chat box. The chat box is open to everyone. So please, if you're on this call, like I said, inclusion matters to you. So please, let's get your diverse perspectives. Let's all be inclusive and let's have a hands-on experience in this particular exercise. And then finally, we'll have a conversation about this. The reason why this is important is because it helps us appreciate how we can all be experiencing the same thing, yet have different opinions about it. So let's jump straight into this. I believe everyone is ready. I invite even the panelists, the resource persons, participants, everybody, let's be involved in this. So let's go to the first picture. So look at this. Whatever comes to mind, whatever strikes you, whatever feeling, whatever logic, whatever anything, put it in the chat box. Thank you very much, Rita. Thank you, AJ. Thank you, Benny. Just anything, a paragraph. If you want to write an essay, please feel free to write an essay. Just pour out your heart here. Thank you so much. We have Blank Panther, we have Hero, we have Wakanda Forever. We have Superstar. This is the same image, yet what are we seeing here? Different perceptions of it. Ultimately, still the same, but from different angles. Thank you so much for your responses. I want to encourage everyone to just say what's in your mind. It doesn't have to be a word. It can be a sentence. It can be an essay, whatever it is. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for your comments. All right. We are going to have a discussion on this, but let's move to the next picture. Thank you so much for your responses, guys. All right, look at this. What comes to mind? Anything. It can be abstract. It can be abstract. Would you be passionate about this pollution? Okay, I see energy. You see, this is the same image, yet we're seeing different perceptions from it. A lot of people are focused on the industrial part of it. A lot of people are focused on the emissions part of it. And that speaks to things that, first hit us, speaks to our values, it speaks to our experiences, it speaks to who we are as people. A very determined person. Now that is a very unique one, Kafayat. Thank you. I think I would probably, let me take a note, I'll probably take you up on that. Oil and gas, good. Thank you very much, facilities. When Port Harcourt, well, I think Wally is being nostalgic here. Thank you so much, Wally, for taking us back to when Port Harcourt refinery was working fine. Thank you so much for your responses. Let's go to the next image quickly, please. So look at this. What do you see? What do you see, guys? What do you see? Just tell me what you see, what comes to mind. Like I said, it doesn't have to be a word. Just tell me what you see. Thank you very much, Mojisola. It's very important not to fall. Yeah, you have to be careful in this life. Thank you. Hidden opportunity. Now that's a very good, that's a good one. Thank you so much. Good artist. Dilemma, very good. Choice, direction. I mean, look at this. Look at this, for Christ's sake. Like, I think everybody should also invite you to also look at the comment section with me. You will see how we are all looking at the same thing, yet having different diverse perspectives about this. People are seeing opportunities in this, or saying, risk. Others are saying suicide. Others are saying courage. Others are saying disconnect from solutions. This underscores the conversation that we're having today. And then let's just go to the final slide. The final slide. Thank you so much. You've been such a wonderful audience. This is our final slide, and then we conclude on this. I love how everybody is involved in this. We're putting the conversation in perspective. We're starting to appreciate the essence of diversity. So please tell me, look at this. What do you see? What do you see in this image? What do you see? Who are you? Okay, that is a philosophical, fantastic. So Benny has seen a young lady, but Daniel is seeing an old lady. Now that is an interesting one. Okay, okay. Perspectives, princess, beautiful. So we're seeing a young, beautiful princess. We're seeing beauty. We're seeing puzzle. We're seeing a witch. Okay, so that's interesting. We saw an old lady. We're seeing a witch, all in one picture. And I think ultimately, okay, well, I think Atman has a conspiracy theory. Apparently, what we're looking at is the person that put Snow White. Thank you very much, Atman, for that update. I think we know who to track for Snow White's poison. Thank you so much, Atman. I think if we go to the next slide, just concluding remarks on this note, really, you see that diversity, inclusion, fundamentally, as different human beings, it ultimately means that we experience the world in a different way. We experience the world different from any other person. And so naturally, we have different perspectives, we have different opinions, we have different sayings on things. And it's when you put all these things together, that's when you have a balanced view on things. And then we've been to do that research, and we've seen that is how you actually build successful businesses. That is how you actually make profitability in businesses. And we've seen that is how to ensure any sustainability. But I won't talk too much. I'll let the panelists actually give us a deep dive into this. And I'm pretty sure by the end of this session, I to appreciate how it's very, very important to always challenge your perspectives. Your perspectives might not be the complete truth. It might be a truth, but it's not the complete truth. And when you have an understanding of everybody's perspectives, then you have a balanced view. So the next slide finally is just a segue into the main session. I just say thank you everyone for being such a wonderful audience. I love how we are, participating in this. That shows the value of inclusion. And so even as the conversations go on, let's keep being inclusive. Drop your comments, drop your opinions, drop your thoughts, drop your counter arguments. Let's have this very, very, very engaging. And on that note, I want to say welcome to SPE Lagos D&I Week. And I'll hand over to our D&I chair, Princess, in this moment. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Emmanuel. We have come to a very important session, and I hope you appreciate how we can experience same thing but have different experiences. So right now it's my privilege to introduce the keynote speaker, and he's someone that is very recognizable in SPE and also the industry large for his numerous contributions to also push this industry forward. And we couldn't have asked for any better person to speak on this note, address the theme titled Diversity, Equity, Inclusion, a Trio Critical to Energy Sustainability. So by way of introduction, Prof has more than 40 years of technical, professional, and academic experience analyzing the economics of oil and gas industry and also the global oil and gas economy. He's currently the Petroleum Commerce Professorial Chair, sponsored by GNPC at the University of Cape Coast Institute for Oil and Gas, Ghana. Prof is also the Executive Director, Emmanuel Eboga Foundation for Petroleum and Energy Industry Economic Policy Advocacy, Abuja, Nigeria. He's a professor emeritus in petroleum economics at the Louisiana State University. And he has received several professional awards from different organizations for his numerous contributions to the industry, to petroleum engineering as a profession, and also to the profession of petroleum economics. So it's my humble privilege right now to welcome Professor Wu Ledare to the virtual podium. Prof, over to you. And please, you can give a round of applause in the chat and just welcome Prof. Thank you, Prof. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, and I hope you could hear me. Great from Kigali, Rwanda, and I've spent a couple of days here, and it just gives me hope that with transformational leadership, Nigeria will be great again. Again, I want to thank you for inviting me, and I want to congratulate the leadership team of the Lagos section of the Society of Petroleum Engineers. I also want to send greetings to the chairman of Nigerian Society of Petroleum Engineers, Nigerian Council. I want to thank you all, and I'm grateful. It's always a pleasure to recognize the incoming Vice Council Chair, Ajia. I just continue to hope that SPE Nigeria will continue to grow. Thus far, congratulate Lagos section again for their 50th anniversary. The scholarship fund that was raised to continue to support young and emerging professionals for the oil and gas industry. I just cannot express enough appreciation for the recognition the SPE has given to me. And I'm glad that I belong to a noble organization that understands the importance of a united purpose. The title of my speech really is Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion, a vital triad to energy sustainability in Africa. Normally, I think when we talk about diversity, equity, and inclusion, we tend to focus too much on human resources. I recognize that, and that's why anywhere I go, I do not hesitate to introduce me as he for she, and I wear that as a cap. But today I'm going to use those three important concepts to explain energy sustainability and try to, well, let's see how important this is from African perspective. The universal call to action is very explicitly stated in the Agenda 2030 for Sustainable Development, which stakes high the humanization of energy by 2030. Energy humanization is the essence of energy sustainability to ensure that households, businesses, and industries have access to available, acceptable, and affordable energy. Humanizing energy within the context of energy sustainability is a strategic priority for countries as they strive to balance energy security and energy equity within the context of environmental sustainability. Sustainable energy, therefore, aims to meet the energy needs of the present generation without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their own energy needs. It involves balancing economic, environmental, and social welfare considerations to ensure that energy end use is both efficient and effective, and that it does not harm the planet for future generations. Achieving energy sustainability requires a transition towards a more diversified, inclusive, and equitable energy system. However, the way we produce and consume energy can have significant impact on the environment, such as climate change, pollution, and habitat destruction. These impacts can have negative consequences for human health, natural ecosystems, and the planet's overall ecological balance. Further, energy sustainability requires a shift in society's attitudes and behavior towards energy use, such as adopting energy efficiency habits and embracing more suitable lifestyles. Africa cannot attain sustainability at the detriment of energy security and environmental sustainability. Thus, diversity, equity, and inclusion are a critical strategic triad for Africa to optimally humanize energy for economic development in the global energy transition and net zero emissions expedition. Energy diversity is the use of a variety of energy sources to meet our energy needs. Energy sources must include renewable energy, such as solar, wind, hydroelectric, and geothermal energy, as well as non-renewable sources, such as oil, gas, and coal. Energy diversity is important and a critical factor in achieving energy sustainability. A diverse mix of energy sources can help to ensure a stable and reliable supply of energy while reducing environmental impacts and promoting technological innovation without propelling energy crisis. Relying on a single energy source, such as fossil fuels, can lead to energy insecurity, as those sources are finite and subject to supply disruptions and price volatility. By contrast, a diverse mix of energy sources, including renewable sources like solar, wind, and hydro, can help to ensure a more secure and stable energy supply. For example, there are some parts of Nigeria where provision of electricity connection to the national grid is extremely difficult. These places can be provided with electricity using renewables such as solar and wind. Energy diversity can also help to reduce environmental impact of our energy use. Fossil fuels, for example, are a major source of greenhouse gas emissions, which contribute massively to climate change. By shifting to a more diverse mix of energy sources, including renewables, we can reduce our greenhouse gas and other forms of pollution, which can improve public health and protect natural systems. Energy diversity can promote innovation and technological development in the energy sector. By investing in a range of energy sources, we can foster competition and encourage the development of new technologies that can improve efficiency, reliability, affordability of our energy system. Diversity is inevitable when it comes to a combination of an energy mix strategy. This can ultimately lead to more sustainable and resilient energy system that can meet the needs of future generations. Overall, energy diversity is a key component of energy sustainability, and it is important that we continue to promote the use of a wide range of energy sources to meet our energy needs in a sustainable and responsible way. Another important component when looking at energy sustainability is energy equity, which encompasses fair distribution of energy resources, burdens, and benefits amongst diverse groups in our society, regardless of their level of income, geographical location, or race. Energy equity is essential for achieving energy sustainability goal number 7, which is to ensure access to affordable, reliable, sustainable, and modern energy for all. This means that everyone, regardless of their socioeconomic status, race, gender, or geographic location, should have access to the energy they need to meet their basic needs and improve their quality of life. Energy equity aims to ensure that all individuals, communities have access to reliable, clean, and affordable energy sources, and that they are not disproportionately impacted in a negative way because of energy production and consumption. Accessibility is cost-effective energy is a fundamental human right, and Africa must work to guarantee that all communities have the energy they need to power their lives. Africa must guarantee that the advantage of our energy systems are distributed equitably to address energy poverty. This is essential for promoting energy equity, as everyone should have access to energy for their basic needs. Without energy equity, certain communities may not have access to affordable and reliable energy sources, which can put them at risk of energy insecurity. They lead to a range of negative consequences, including increased economic hardship, reduced quality of life, and compromise and safety. This is where equity becomes an important component for energy sustainability. Unfortunately, many people, particularly those in low-income and marginalized communities, lack access to modern energy services, rely instead on traditional and often inefficient and unhealthy sources such as biomass, kerosene, and diesel generators. Many people around the world lack access to modern energy services, with as many as 800 million people still without access to electricity, according to International Energy Agency. This energy poverty is often concentrated in rural areas and in low-income households. Lack of access to energy services can limit opportunities for education and economic advancement, contribute to problems and environmental degradation, and exacerbate social inequalities. If we want to achieve energy equity, they must address several challenges, including energy poverty, energy infrastructure, and the use of clean and renewable energy. This can involve expanding access to electricity, clean cooking fuels, investing in renewable energy, and so on. Policies and initiatives to promote energy equity can include financing, perhaps even a word that people don't want to know, subsidized energy production, tax incentives, and public-private partnership. So we must understand that you cannot talk about global energy sustainability if a great proportion of the globe have no access to clean energy. And that's why the concept of diversity, not just hammering on one type of energy source, the concept of equity, whereby you put everybody in perspective when developing policies or targets, become important. The third element, and I'll be rounding up soon, of this triad is energy inclusion. Conceptually, you must seek to ensure that everyone has access to affordable, available, and acceptable energy services, and that their energy needs are considered in the design and implementation of energy policies and programs. It goes beyond just providing access to services and encompasses the participation and engagement of communities in decision-making process related to energy. This is a logical path to energy sustainability. Energy inclusion is important because energy is a basic human need, and the lack of access to energy service can limit opportunities for economic development, education, social well-being, especially the vulnerable ones in our society. Moreover, the vulnerable and marginalized communities are often disproportionately affected by energy poverty, energy insecurity, and the negative impact of energy use on health and the environment. It is important to realize that we are going to compete with the world, the globe. Africa must begin to see the importance of energy. Energy production does not grow the economy as fast as energy consumption. So if you produce energy and you export it for money, energy inclusiveness, energy equity, and energy diversity within the context of energy sustainability will be difficult to accomplish. Achieving energy inclusion requires addressing the underlying drivers of energy poverty and energy injustice, such as inequality, discrimination, and social exclusion. This requires a multidimensional approach that addresses not only access to energy services, but also energy affordability, energy efficiency, energy conservation, and the use of energy within the context of environmental sustainability. I must quickly move to concluding remark because time is important. But let me say again that energy inclusion policies and initiatives can include promoting energy democracy, expanding access to information about energy systems and services, and investing in capacity building programs that empower the marginalized group in our society. These approaches can help to ensure that energy decisions are made in a way that is inclusive, participatory, and equitable, and that everyone has a say in their energy future. Again, I'm not opposed to global transition. The global transition to renewable energy must put into consideration the different components of the world and put in perspective their level of development. In conclusion, Nigeria's geometric decline in daily oil production from 2.2 million in 2015 to 1.7 million in 2018 and 1.3 million in 2022 can, in my opinion, be attributed to the declining trend in diversity, equity, and inclusion in the decision process concerning the Nigerian energy sector. Perhaps illegal oil bunkering, corruption, vandalism, among others, are just a collateral factor due to the apparent fall in diversity, equity, and inclusion. So how can we strike a balance between the triad of energy sustainability in Africa? There are no easy answers, I must agree. However, we must understand that to have a balance, we must employ a variety of practices. One, substantial investment will be required in renewable energy, energy storage, grid infrastructure, and other technologies. The workforce must be diverse, equitable, and inclusive. In an heterogeneous society, you cannot have homogeneous advisors. With respect to getting energy to be sustainable, even for Nigeria, I will venture to say that the incoming president must not assume the position of the petroleum minister. An energetic dynamic who can generate policies to ensure that diversity, equity, and inclusiveness is well in the making, make sure that the power sector is not just skewed in one direction when it comes to policy development. Human capital development and deployment must be optimal, inclusive, and just. Doing things right and in the right way are essential in workforce development and deployment. Finally, petroleum is not going to just disappear into the thin air. Technology to low carbon in the production and consumption of petroleum can help as well. And this is where the tertiary education comes in. And that's why some of us continue to preach the gospel of a triple helix plus, the inclusion of academic, industry, and business in energy sustainability expedition. I do not see petroleum being excluded from the optimal energy mix to enhance sustainable energy elements, availability, acceptability, accessibility, and affordability. Thus, in conclusion, using petroleum wealth management tools to facilitate linkages necessary for the petroleum sector to propel an economies is critical so that we can absorb the unintended consequences of a rapid energy invocation on African economy. African economies need to not walk the loud energy transition talk precipitously. invoking the triad of energy sustainability, diversity, equity, and inclusion is a necessary condition to avoid energy crisis. Let me thank you again for listening. I'm hopeful that I've been able to stimulate the panelists to be able to diversity, equity, and inclusion, not only from human resources point of view, but from energy sustainability point of view, especially for the African economies. May the Lord bless the deliberations. Amen. Again, thank you for listening. Let me quickly acknowledge the excellent assistance of my PhD student, Clement Oteng, at the UCC Institute for Oil and Gas Study, was actually assisted me in getting some of these informations right. Thank you again for inviting me. Enjoy your deliberations. Bye.
Thank you very much, Prof. I don't know if I'm the only one that, felt that keynote address. So many things to take in, but I recall, just hearing that it's a multidimensional approach, and also that we must solve the problem of energy poverty, and not just energy poverty, but energy injustice. And Africa must take a fit-for solution. And we should not only look at the human resource perspective to it. So I'm going to just go further to introduce, we'll be heading to the panel session, but to continue, I'll be introducing the moderator who will now lead us further. And please feel free to drop your comments in the chat box. How did you feel? What stood out to you in the keynote address? And also, if you have any lead-up questions that you take during the panel session, please also drop it in the chat box. So to go further, it's my humble privilege to invite to the virtual podium Kereke. He's currently a lead reservoir simulation engineer working in Chevron, Nigeria's central technical team, supporting various asset projects and activities. He has 16 years of upstream oil and gas experience, spanning production engineering, field development planning, well opportunity identification, maturation, and also reserves estimation and accounting. He's a passionate volunteer with the Society of Petroleum Engineers. A witness to this because I have worked with him on the front, and he's also an avid communicator, and he's going to just do justice to that by his excellent moderation skills. He holds a bachelor's and MSc in petroleum engineering from the Federal University of Technology, Owerri, and also here at Watt University, Edinburgh, hopefully. So it's my privilege to welcome Buchi to the virtual podium. Please, by way of welcome, also drop in the chat box, welcome to him. Buchi, I'll hand over the session to you to introduce other panelists and also take over the panel session. Buchi, over to you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Princess. You're far too gracious with your introduction. I really appreciate that. Sorry, excuse me. And thank you to SPE Lagos for the opportunity to contribute to SPE Lagos and indeed to this very important discussion. Before I go further, I'd like to once again congratulate SPE Lagos for such a wonderful milestone of turning 50. I mean, to run an organization for 1 year takes a whole lot. To run that excellently for many, many years, all the way to 50 years, with a lot of accomplishments to point to, speaks volumes to the sustainability, if you like, of SPE Lagos. So congratulations once again for turning to that wonderful milestone this year. So yeah, we have a very, very wonderful theme for today's event. We will dig into all of that in a moment. Before we go into all of that, I'd like to just recap a few very important points that our distinguished Prof just spoke about, and then I'll introduce our panelists, and then we can unpack all of that in here. So why energy sustainability? Obviously, this is a very critical issue in our world, because our world does need a whole lot of energy for us to be able to sustain the development that is required of the world. Prof did mention that indeed this energy sustainability discussion is a pipe dream unless you humanize energy, unless you put thoughts around the people that this is supposed to serve, bring the empathy that goes along with your innovations and your policies before you can indeed achieve that sustainability. I'm really excited with how Prof really spoke about the subjects of diversity, equity, and inclusion from the perspective of energy. Very interesting angle to that, and that I'm sure will stick with us today. Prof did mention that energy diversity is about not relying, on one not relying on fossil fuel, but indeed looking at the spectrum of energy sources that we have, and thinking of what indeed suits different areas of the world, and that a very critical aspect of energy sustainability. Prof spoke about energy equity in terms of, the ability for us society to explore ingenuity and empathy in ensuring access to clean and affordable energy to all, especially the underdeveloped part. The development of low-income community matters, he said. The health of the marginalized community while they're accessing this energy matters as well. So we don't just think of giving them energy of their health. We think of giving them energy that is also mindful of their health. Prof talked about energy inclusion, which is carrying everybody along conversation about energy across the world, especially again the underserved community. Not doing this, he mentioned, should be regarded as energy justice, which is indeed unhealthy for our society. Africa cannot walk the energy transition in isolation of energy diversity, energy equity, energy inclusion, which is indeed true. He succinctly stated that policies and genuinely important elements that ensures the trial of energy diversity, energy equity, and energy inclusion. And in a heterogeneous society, cannot deal with a homogeneous advisor. So everyone's input is very critical. Prof now heading towards the human aspect of our subject, the diversity, equity, and inclusion. He further went on to say the diversity of the human capital development that is required for this, and indeed the inclusion and equity dimensions of this cannot be underestimated. Without this, we would not succeed. There's a whole lot that Prof has said in just 20 minutes. I can't appreciate you enough, Prof. And thank you also to Mr. Emmanuel for the icebreaker that helped us appreciate the difference in perspective and the need for inclusion and equity in these regards. So there's been a whole lot in the past 30 minutes from our two speakers so far. Now we'll be delving into the panel session, and speaking about this very important subject of diversity, inclusion, and equity. Once again, we need to be intentional about this, and that's why SPE is up to the table for discourse. So I will go ahead and introduce our distinguished panelists, and we would go on to unpack these subjects and do justice to these. Would crave your questions as well in the chat, as Adaki mentioned during the opening session. Okay. All right. All right. So, apologies. I'm trying to move my thumbnail out of the way so I can see all the distinguished accomplishments of Amina properly. So, Mrs. Amina Damadi, engineer with Nigeria Midstream Downstream Petroleum Regulatory Agency, Authority, I beg your pardon, NMDPRA, has 2 decades of cognitive experience in banking and engineering. Amina has served as a technical assistant to the Zonal Operations Controller at Abuja, providing key support over regulatory functions, a position she has maintained with the 4 past consecutive Zonal Operation Controllers. That speaks a lot about her excellence. Amina attended the distinguished Ahmadu Bello University, Zaria, earning a Bachelor of Chemical Engineering. Attended the Robert Gordon University, Aberdeen, UK, and the MSc Oil and Gas Engineering, and also the University of Port Harcourt International Institute for Petroleum Economics, Law and Policy for an MSc in Petroleum Economics. If that was not enough, she is currently pursuing a PhD in Chemical Process and Energy Engineering from Robert Gordon University, Aberdeen. I dare say, study no they tire you. Yeah. So notice how I switched from English to a lingo here, because diversity is about bringing your whole self to work. So I'll encourage all of us in the course of this conversation to do that as well. Amina is passionate about evidence-based regulation and working closely with industry and academia to contribute to the improvement of the economy. It's a pleasure to welcome Mrs. Amina Damadi. A virtual round of applause for her. Okay, can we move on to our next panelist? Excellent. Mrs. Moji Iyamabo is the Associate Vice President, Gas Business at Holding, Oil and Gas Limited. Moji has P&L responsibility for Hess Holding, energy sector, across upstream, midstream, and downstream sectors. Prior to joining Hess Holding, Moji was the head gas commercial at Aeroton Exploration and Production Company Limited. In this role, Moji led the commercial and business development of the organization's gas portfolio. She joined Aeroton from Ella Group, where she was head regional gas business development, a role she undertook after 8 years at Oando PLC, where she had responsibility for corporate finance, business development. Earlier in her career, she has gained experience in investment banking, audit and assurance services, and in non-profit sector. Moji holds a BA Management and Accounting from Obafemi Awolowo University and an MBA in Finance and Strategic Management from the Wharton School, University of Pennsylvania. She is a fellow of the Institute of Chartered Accountants of Nigeria. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome Mrs. Moji. Okay. All right. Mr. Keside Anosike is the communications West Africa for Schlumberger. He is responsible for the corporate communications, marketing, and public relations of SLB entity across 12 countries in West Africa: Nigeria, Ghana, Ivory Coast, Senegal, Cameroon, Mauritania, Sierra Leone, Liberia, Guinea, Benin, Gambia, and Mali. Safe to say, with respect to communications around West Africa, Keside has been there, done there, as a team. Keside is a seasoned communications professional with a passion for storytelling and developing brand solutions to forge meaningful and long-lasting impressions. I say you will see quite a bit of that in today's session. With a cross-continent career spanning corporate communications, public relations, advertising, and strategy development, Keside has executed successful global campaigns and multi-sectoral projects. His previous roles have included communication strategy, policy, and stakeholder relations for a Pan-African governance consulting firm, communication and advocacy for the largest philanthropy in Africa, and management for one of the leading multinational PR agencies, overseeing a portfolio of fast-moving commercial goods, lifestyle, aviation, and oil and gas brands. Keside provides communication advisory to multiple institutions across the world and continues to leverage numerous volunteer platforms for service to humanity. He holds a Bachelor of Arts degree in advertising, public relations, and media science with first-class honors from Middlesex University, London. Ladies and gentlemen, let's make Keside warmly welcome on the platform. Good to see you, Keside. Okay, Isioma Asiodo Otuo. Isioma studied electrical electronics engineering at the University of Benin. An ExxonMobil scholar, she has 13 years experience in the energy industry. Isioma's experience spans frontline operations and maintenance, continuous improvement and reliability engineering, cultural and process change leadership, risk management, people development, external stakeholder management, digitalization and technology, asset management, and safety and environment. She has a diploma from the University of Warwick, UK, in engineering business management, currently pursuing the MIT Professional Education Chief Sustainability Officer certification. So when it comes to sustainability, when it comes to human people development, she's seen it all, and indeed a very veritable source of knowledge or wisdom in today's conversation. Isioma is passionate about people, maturing solutions, and possibility. She was recognized in 2019 by SPE Lagos in the Women in Energy Hall of Fame. She is the co-founder of Blazer and Baby and head of Network for Leaning Career Mom, a leaning network that is focused on supporting young women customize and achieve their family aspiration and career aspirations. She was recently appointed as a global advisory member for this network, covering over 100 networks globally. It's a pleasure to have you on board, Isioma. You're highly welcome. Make Isioma feel the warmth on the platform. Okay, Mrs. Fayama Okoli. Fayama is the Sub-Sahara African Drilling Solutions Technical Lead for SLB. She has more than 15 years cognate experience in the oil and gas industry and has held several and operational roles within and outside Nigeria. In her current role, Fayama drives digital transformation in well construction, planning, and operations, enabling the oil and gas industry transition to large-scale efficiency gains and increase in profit margins through digital technology. Fayama obtained her first degree in petroleum engineering from the University of Port Harcourt, Nigeria, and a master's in petroleum engineering from Herod Institute of Petroleum Engineering. She has authored technical papers and is an active board member of the Society of Petroleum Engineers Lagos section. She has held leadership roles in career guidance, student affairs, and programs committee, and has served as well as the section chairperson. Has a wealth of experience in wellsite operations, drilling engineering, formation evaluation, and reservoir characterization. She has held roles as borehole reservoir engineering team lead, formation evaluation petrophysicist, remote operations center of excellence lead engineer, and well site logging while drilling engineer. Gentlemen, please welcome Fayama. Okay, awesome. The panel is complete and we're set to go. I'm excited. And so I will yield the floor to distinguished panelists, first off for an opening comment around this theme before we go into different specific areas of the discourse. Can I start off with Amina, please? Amina, your opening comments.
Okay. Good morning, everyone, and thank you very much. It's a great honor to be here on this panel with Prof and all the other panelists. It's really a great honor. Prof is my mentor, my lecturer. So if you catch me repeating everything that he has said, it's because he taught me. He was my supervisor when I was doing my master's in petroleum economics. Please pardon the copying because I may just end up repeating everything he has said. So thank you very much, Lagos section, for putting it together quite timely and useful at this time. So my thoughts on the theme, diversity, equity, inclusion, a triad, according to Prof, critical to energy sustainability. For me, I would say that it is imperative for us to recognize the unique value of diversity which can lead to equity and inclusion. First off, like diversity in our energy sources is important for energy sustainability. Relying on a single energy source like we do here can create vulnerabilities and risks to energy security and environmental sustainability, as we're seeing in Nigeria and Africa at large. So a diverse range of energy sources can help us ensure energy access for all communities, particularly those in rural or underprivileged areas like far northeast. We have plenty of sun. Why can't we harness that? That may not have access to additional energy source, and this can improve the quality of life, reduce energy poverty, and is a critical component of equity. Secondly, promoting diversity in all the energy sources can also promote diversity in energy workforce. For example, promoting renewable energy sources can create jobs in the renewable energy industry, which is often more accessible to diverse communities than the traditional, which is of course fossil fuel energy industry. This can help promote equity in employment opportunities, provide pathways for underrepresented groups to enter the energy sector. Finally, promoting diversity in energy sources can also promote environmental equity, as communities that have historically borne the brunt of pollution and other environmental impact of the traditional energy sources can benefit from the development and deployment of cleaner, more sustainable energy sources. So it's a win-win for everyone, which includes inclusivity, especially for the underrepresented groups. This is my take on the theme. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Amina. Very, very well said. So our audience, you would observe Amina's take on this is very closely aligned with Prof's take on this as well, speaking around the energy sustainability and energy diversity issues. So you would notice in the course of our conversation how we would seamlessly move from focus around energy sustainability and speak a lot around the human aspect of diversity, inclusion, and equity. You see a whole lot about that, how we work in our various spaces and how that can help indeed get the ultimate result that we're looking for in here. So you would see a mix of that from the various panelists. So I'll yield the floor to our second panelist for her opening remarks. Moji, please.
Thank you very much, Chi. It's good afternoon now. It's 12:00. Good afternoon to my fellow panelists. Good afternoon to everyone that has made out time to join the webinar. And a very big thank you to SPE Lagos Section 61 for the opportunity. Very excited to be here. I think three main comments for me. I think the first thing is, when you hear of diversity, equity, and inclusion, you think of the human resources. So it's a good opener to clarify that it shouldn't just be limited to just human resources. It's also limited to energy resources. Secondly is there are a lot of buzzwords, energy sustainability, energy poverty. And sometimes I wonder if we really understand it. So at least to help me, what I do is to use very simple terms. I can be visual to break it down. So for energy sustainability, my key takeaway, I always use 4 A's. And the 4 A's are energy availability. And that means, is energy available? Second, energy acceptability. Is it acceptable to you? Is it causing more health damages or not? The third is it accessible? So as Madam Amina was saying, if I'm in the north and I was thinking of power, would I be thinking of a gas-fired power plant? I should be thinking of maybe a solar plant, all other things being equal. And the third is it affordable? Because if it's not affordable, then I can't access it. If I can't pay, I can't get it. So I use those 4 A's to analyze what energy sustainability meant. And I'll just take diversity as an example. Diversity and availability. How do you ensure availability using diversity? And I think Madam Amina alluded to this point, that what you think about is to use, and Prof also said this in his speech, is to use different sources. So if I'm using different sources of energy, both renewable, non-renewable, I am diversifying my energy mix. And because I am diversifying my energy mix, that means energy is available. So that meets the first component of energy sustainability. Second component was acceptable. The fact that you're diversifying your energy mix, you're using both renewable and non-renewable sources of energy would help in terms of energy acceptability, because you would hopefully be lowering your greenhouse gas emissions, your carbon footprint, and that makes the energy acceptable. So that addresses the second component of energy sustainability. The third is accessibility. Because you're thinking of diversity and you're thinking of different sources of energy, based on where you're located, based on what's to you, you can then decide which energy to assess. So so I'm using diversity, and I'm using it to assess the four components of energy sustainability. And the last is affordability. So how does diversity help with affordability? Diversity promotes you to use different sources of energy, and as such, if you think of the renewable space, where there's a lot of innovation, there's a lot of technology about making sure that that energy is cost effective. With all the competition, with all the innovation going on in the non-renewable space, that hopefully should lead to energy that's affordable, because you have innovation and technology that would hopefully help to reduce the cost of energy. So those are my key takeaways, just to simplify what these buzzwords mean and make sure that they really have a meaning and you can apply them and make them as practical as possible. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Moji. Thank you very much. I wouldn't forget those words again, because now I'll remember the 4 A's. So that's very memorable. Thank you very much. I'll yield the floor to our third panelist for his opening remarks. Keside, please.
Thank you, and good afternoon, everyone. Such a great privilege to speak to all of you, and thank you for the opportunity, SPE Lagos chapter. Just moving on, this is a subject matter for which I find very engaging for many reasons, because there's so many ways to look at it, right? You can look at it from the perspective, but you can look at it from the human resource perspective, which I personally prefer to go through, because I think that human beings are the ones who inform technology. So if we can get it right with humans, then the pathway to innovation and technology is more guaranteed. But in thinking about these three concepts, I mean, we know that it's a buzzword. Yeah, you know, that's what LinkedIn likes. You know, we talk about International Women's Day, and we talk about equity, and we talk about all of these things. But how do we practice them in our day-to-day? And I think I'm more curious around how we can practice these things, regardless of where we come from, regardless of our profession. Because again, at the end of the day, you know, human beings. So now if you look at all of these three concepts, base level, human. So let's start from there. What I think when I think of diversity, I think of diversity as an open arms practice. You know, it's that thing where you recognize that yes, we're very much different, but we're also the same, and in a weird kind of way. Well, we're not like bad weird, but we have similar connections, right? So I think diversity then means that we should be able to accord respect, opportunities, and also give value regardless of that. You know, it's not just, oh, I'm okay with difference, but it's also to embrace it as a fact of life. I'm male, you're female, I'm from here, you're from there. Yes, let's move on from that. You know, that shouldn't be a hindrance to any kind of opportunity that we allow to anyone. So I think that if we're able to embrace diversity in this framework, we're able to then become inclusive, right? So I sort of think of it as progressional. You conquer diversity and you go into inclusion, and then we're able to, you know, establish equity. You know, inclusion is where we then get to practice this diversity. We're able to recognize, we're able to have a kind of social operating apparatus where we make room for everyone. You know, we're able to think of, you know, different perspectives, different solutions, just live in that world of difference without being so uncomfortable. And then equity, of course, I think it's the result of inclusion and diversity. Just providing the same opportunity for all, recognizing that, yes, you know, recognizing that, yes, maybe people in the West have greater solutions to technology that can give them energy. But here we have, natural resources as well that we can let. Someone had mentioned sun. That's the kind of broad thinking that I look at when I'm thinking of equity. It's just to be able to combine that awareness and use it to improve our lives. So yeah, I'm looking forward to expanding these concepts more during this session. Great to hear it from the technical perspective as well, but also very, very curious on how we can have a shift of mindset when it comes to diversity, when it comes to practicing inclusion, when we're able to create and accommodate equitable opportunities. And that's either from access to energy resources, access to technology, infrastructure, education, and all the other softer things, right? Because I do think that they matter. So yeah, I'll stop here and I look forward to an engaging session. Thank you, and over to you, Buchi.
Thank you very much, Keside. Thank you very much. Really appreciate that perspective. It's very, very important to think about the human aspect of what we're doing, because I mean, if we get it right with humans, as you said, then we're on course for successful technology. So it's important to create that robust social framework where, we can get the best from every individual and every perspective in the room. Thank you so much. I'll turn it over to my fourth panelist, Isioma, for your opening comments.
Thank you all for the opportunity to be here. And thanks to SPE Lagos for organizing it. 50 years old, if you were a human being, you would be doing one nice one day and all of us would be wearing a Shoebi. So I'm wearing this for you guys today. Now to the topic, really. I really like what Keside said, because from the position that the reason why we have in the inequity and the challenges we have in our energy system today is because we failed in terms of DEI in the first place, in how we explored energy, how we produced energy, and the policies that that brought us to this. So I also think that fixing that human, or trying, making effort, it may never be perfect, but making effort with the human DEI would unlock a lot of things in our energy sustainability challenge we currently have. But when back to the question around energy sustainability, the way I think about it is yesterday, today, tomorrow, right? And when I think of yesterday, today, tomorrow, I assess it in the manner of in three elements from yesterday, today, and tomorrow: the environment, the people, the cost, the system. So looking back at yesterday, what was the environment? What was the impact of energy? How did we explore energy yesterday? What was the cost? What was the impact on the people? And what systems were at play yesterday? Today, how are we exploring energy today? What is the environment? What's the impact on the environment? What's the impact on people? What is the cost of it in terms of financial? And what are the systems at play with energy today? And tomorrow, what are the possible ways to explore energy tomorrow, right? And what is the impact on the environment, the people, and the system we want to create? And I think we're in a privileged position in this generation, because we are going to determine the tomorrow, right? And the future, and the quality of what we determine as the future we want to work towards will depend on the lessons we get from yesterday and the solutions we're creating today, in terms of who is even around the table today in terms of diversity and inclusion, so that we create better systems for the future, going forward. I think our generation has that challenge, and I think we can solve that challenge. And I'm looking forward to conversing more around it and getting also inspired and sharing some ideas and getting inspired by this panel. But it's worth noting that even the low carbon transitions, all these beautiful things that we talk about, and we talk about this hybrid system, if we do not take the time to understand how the other systems failed and degraded over time and cost all these challenges in terms of security, poverty, we are going to build those biases back into the systems of the future. So let me end with that, and we'll build up on it during the panel. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Isioma. Thank you very much. Excellent perspective. Important for us to view how we've handled energy and dealt with energy yesterday and how we're dealing with it today, so that we can, with it properly and get the best out of it tomorrow. Thank you very, very much for that perspective. So finally, with respect to our starting comments, I would yield the floor to Fayama.
Yes, thank you very much, Buchi. And I want to send my greetings to all our panelists, our keynote speaker, Professor Wumi Iledare. Very nice to meet you, sir. And as well, welcome all our 82 participants and more. Thank you very much, SPE Lagos, for inviting me to this panel session. I'm glad to be part of the vibrant conversations that are going on today. All right, so my perspective on the topic is really broad-based, right? And probably not mainstream, because the mainstream topics have been discussed. We are all very aware of most of the directions in this topic. It has been discussed in several other fora. There's a lot of research communication that has gone out on the topic. So what we want to do is drive it back home. And when I say driving it back home, I'm talking to us in this panel. I'm talking to us in the audience. I'm talking to those of us who have come together here, that when we leave at the end of this conversation, we have something that we are living with that is personal to us and is an action from these conversations. So yes, diversity of the industry, of diversity and sustainability of the energy industry. We're looking at how available it is, accessible and affordable. Amongst all this, the people who make the difference are the entrepreneurs, the policy makers, the engineers, the researchers. They are the ones who are going to make the difference that we seek to achieve in the subject, right? And these are the people that are in the call today. So how are we going to drive all of these trial, ensuring that when we come back in the next year, perhaps a lot of this has moved on to more advanced topics. So I look forward to a world where we do not have to talk about diversity anymore. We do not have to talk about equity anymore. And the inclusion is not a big topic on the table. So we are speaking about solving bigger world problems, okay? So yeah, in the course of our discussion, I'll touch on topics on subjects around stakeholder management, the keys that we need to solve these problems from our own personal circles of influence, stakeholder management, be looking at things like culture of an organization, culture of a nation, culture of a people, drivers for pushing the conversation. We'll be looking at, I'll be expanding on things like self-empowerment as a key to pushing the frontier of this conversation, because where we are looking at moves from the industry, waves from the industry, we also have that input or factor where individuals have to drive these through empowerment. Then I'll be looking at pushing the new frontiers and what it entails for us to go into those places that are not yet mapped out in the course of the industry, and a little bit on research and development. So these are the areas I would like for us to expand more in this conversation and be able to take some actionable items from it. Thank you, moderator. Over to you.
Thank you very much, Fayama. Thank you very much, Fayama. Really appreciate your perspective, looking at the cultural diversity in various organizations, touched on the very, very important aspect of personal empowerment. Keside said it earlier on, it's about the people that are driving this technology, and then pushing new frontiers with respect to energy doing new things with R&D. Thank you very much, and thanks to all our panelists for the various perspective, your opening remarks. I'd like for us to start delving into some of the very specific buzzwords, specific themes of our conversation today. We've heard a bit about energy poverty, but this is something that is being used globally. Casey, I would like to know, from your perspective, do you think there is a disproportionate effect of this concept of energy poverty in developing parts of the world, especially in places like Nigeria? And do you think, in your opinion, that we have what it takes to turn this ship around?
Thanks, Buchi. I see we're going straight for the jugular. I've always found it interesting, the concept of energy poverty, because I think if you strip them apart, they can function in itself. We understand what energy means and we understand what poverty means, right? But their convergence really interests me because they're very, very connected. They're very, very connected. I often say that poverty is not the lack of money, it's a lack of resources. And resources, every single resource in the world is powered by energy. So what does that mean? It means that we need energy to live, we need energy to function, we need energy to drive innovation, we need energy to be on this call right now, to be having this conversation, we need energy. So it's very important that this access that we talk about is made available for everyone to fulfill their optimum potential. And that's why, because we have an absence of energy, that's why we have a significant amount of poverty. Do you follow what I'm trying to say? Because they are so interwoven. If we're able to fix one, we fix the other. We think of Nigeria, for example, which is a country for which I'm very, very proud to be a part of. We have an extraordinary amount of power cuts, and it's insane what that does to productivity. If you think about the young people who have, maybe just think of research purposes, they need to be online to do X, Y, Z, and they just have power cuts. If you think about it from the pollution point of view, we know that literally generator is second form. I was having a conversation with some of my colleagues in South Africa last year, and they were very passionate about load shedding, and it's such a great inconvenience to them. But to me as a Nigerian, I just think to myself, oh, that's just NEPA taking light. And that condition is not normal, because it shouldn't be. We shouldn't normalize, oh, NEPA has taken light. People should have access to energy. So when we are able to address that and combat energy insecurity, I think we can really, really have a chance for the world to be equal. I think it's the enabler, the equal plane from which everything can blossom. Now, whether or not we have what it takes is what we continue to unravel every day, and we continue to make significant progress every day. People continue to devote their time, research, talent, perspective, etc. So it's something that it is possible. I think it's a journey. I think we cannot often compare ourselves to other countries, even though we sometimes stand the risk of doing that, because we have different journeys, we have different things to address. But it's part of what we did as an organization when we rebranded from Schlumberger to SLB. It was that question that we were trying to answer, our rebrand from Schlumberger to SLB, because we realized that, wow, the world has a lot of potential, right? And we have this conversation around climate change. We have this conversation about energy transition. What is the solution? The solution is empowerment. It's being conscious about the things that we need to do on the social level, yes, but also on the technical level. How can we leverage technology, to solve some of these situations? So I think it's a journey. I think we will continue to progress in ways that we can. I think even by having this conversation, we're also contributing to that progress. But there's no silver bullet. There's no one-size-fits-all solution. There are so many different strategies, different resources that when we combine, we can then tailor something that is specific to us. And a lot of people here on this call are part of the energy ecosystem in Nigeria. So you would know so much about the pushback from, the different parastatals about energy transition. Like Africa, Nigeria, we have a unique journey to net zero, but we shouldn't have the pressure of the West because we are going to be doing it bit by bit in the way that we can do. And we'll take it from there.
Allow me to just make a comment, because I think these days we try not to dwell too much on energy poverty. Initially, when it started, people emphasized energy poverty. But you now find out that the conversation is more on energy access than the concept of poverty. Because you have to understand there are two dimensions to energy. You have primary energy sources and you have secondary energy sources. Nigeria is not energy poor when it comes to primary energy. Is it renewable or non-renewable? Even with non-renewable, we are not poor with respect to gas. We have about 210 trillion cubic feet of proved reserve. Is it oil? We have about 37 billion barrels of oil. Is it solar? But so that's why people are moving away from energy poverty and emphasizing more on the proportion of our population that are connected either to the grid or have access to whatever energy they have. Then you can even talk about technology poverty. And recently now you even see capacity development and leaving too many resources on tap is actually exacerbating our ability to have more access to energy. And that's why from the third world point of view, is more of access to energy. And that's where that 4A letters become important in terms of being sustainable in our energy development. Is Nigeria a poverty nation? If you are going to ask about it, how do you measure poverty? Because I look at myself and see when I enter Nigeria, definition of poverty is difficult to know among my own group of people that I see. And so let us look at the factors, more or less, that are limiting access to energy for majority of Africans, in a sense that energy, which is not that we don't produce it, but do we consume it? And that's why going forward, energy consumption develops a nation faster than energy production, especially if it is not used in a domestic way to grow the economy. So I would say that we may be poor within the concept of secondary energy, and we should not be if we have devoted our attention to making accessibility, affordability, availability, and acceptability the key driver of energy sustainability. And that's where diversity, inclusion, doing things right and doing things the right way is key to energy sustainability, which is more or less efficiency, effectiveness, equity, and inclusiveness. Thank you. I have to leave because I have another meeting in 30 minutes. That's why I wanted to make comments. Again, thank you for the invitation.
Thank you very much, Prof. Thank you very much, Prof. Your wisdom on this subject has been very immense. Can't appreciate you enough. Have a nice remainder of the day. Thank you, sir.
Which I just wanted to add to Prof's point quickly in a minute is, the discussion around the difference between energy poverty and energy access, and how energy access affects growth and economic development of any country. It's very clear that for countries where there's poor energy access, you can't compare the growth and the development to countries where there's superior energy access. So for any country that wants to grow its GDP, that wants to improve productivity, the question of energy access and the discussions around it is extremely important. And it also further cements Prof's point That's not the amount of energy you produce, but it's the amount of energy you consume, which is why today there's a lot of discussion around why we're exporting so much gas. And the government is trying to put in a lot of policies to ensure that we are utilizing that gas domestically, because there is a clear positive correlation between the amount of gas, the amount of energy you consume, and economic growth and development. Thanks.
Fantastic. Fantastic. Thank you very much, Moji. Thank you very, very much. Excellent, excellent narrative there around the fact that, yes, we may be poor in human social issues, but we're not poor in energy availability in terms of, I mean, the abundance resources that we have in terms of energy in our country, but how we develop these and get it out and utilize it, most importantly, will have a tremendous effect on whether the country continues to be poor in terms of human social issues or otherwise. Thank you very, very much. We've spoken a whole lot, in the past couple of minutes around energy sustainability, energy poverty, practical things around how we lack energy in our society. But one thing that I've heard in the course of this conversation has been the fact that we need innovation, and we need creativity, we need technology, and those things speak to humans, as Casey mentioned earlier on. So I want to, and I'll probably take this back to you, Casey. I want to deal a bit on that subject of humans and the subject of diversity, inclusion, and equity. Those are three big words. Just so we understand the influence it has in shaping the realization of energy sustainability. It's important that we understand those concepts properly and deal with all of the sub-subjects underneath that subject. So I'd like to first yield the floor for you to help us with how do you define, or how do you understand or differentiate those three concepts: diversity, inclusion, and equity?
Thanks, Richie. So I think I touched on this earlier when I said that there are three different concepts, but they're they're intricately linked. And you're right when you say that understanding them would help us to act in a way that considers all of them. I think diversity, when you think about diversity just on a broad social understanding, it's different, and not just being okay with difference, but learning how to live with it, right? And that also means that looking around yourself to understand that, oh, there's potential here, there's potential there. We're all very familiar with that. It's the Me Too, it's the Women's Day, it's all of those things. I think if we're able to understand that from the social perspective, then we're also able to inform our mind on how to also look for alternate solutions. I think there's a kind of sociology that happens where we're able to keep an open mind, as they say, and be okay to look at diverse areas, look at diverse talents, look at diverse opportunities. I think there's a way that can inform us from a technical point of view, from how we find solutions. So that's that, right? Again, inclusion, as I said earlier, was an ability to practice that recognition. I think that people sometimes can think, oh, diversity is just for me to, say that I support, for example, I support women, right? But how are we practicing that? When you're considering a project, are you being conscious to include women in that? When you are trying to recruit, for example, are you actively, looking for women, or not just saying that, oh yeah, this is in quote a man's job, or engineering should be in quote a man's job? I support women, or I'm a very diverse person, but that's not the inclusion that we're looking out for, right? So I think that inclusion is the practice of that diversity. So diversity is the understanding, it's seeing value, it's seeing the full picture. Inclusion is the practice of it. It's in walking into a room and saying, okay, why is there, I don't see I don't see the diversity. I don't see the mixed thinking, the mixed understanding, the complex human interaction that should exist, and then going after it. So equity, again, like I said before, I think it's the result of both of them. I think, again, I say this so many times, and I say this even outside this conversation, there's something about how we structure our understanding of the world that informs how we act. You know, it's psychology, yes, but it's also how we find results. It's also how we're able to innovate. If we condition our mind, if we limit our mind to particular thinking, we're limiting the opportunities that could come from it. And this is across board, right? So I think equity is just as a result of that combination. So if you start from step one, which is diversity, and you're able to practice inclusion, then you start to see results. You start to sort of have that mind frame to drive equity. It's to create opportunities, it's to accommodate. So yes, I think there's a lot we can do in our industry, again, being very specific with the energy and oil and gas landscape in terms of driving this D&I conversation. But stepping out from the human perspective for a second, government, how are we, PPP, for example, how are we able to leverage public and private sector partnerships? Because that's also part of equity. That's to realize that, okay, we can all bring different things to the table to find results, find solutions. We can foster great partnerships. We can have an extended understanding of what can be done when we collaborate with someone else. We shouldn't just limit that thinking. You know, for example, oil and gas representation at COP28, for example, these are kind of things that happen when we create, we have a larger playing field for everyone to contribute to conversation, to contribute to innovation, to do things that will serve the collective human good. So yeah, so I think that all of these concepts are connected, but I think again they are largely around access. Like you know, my previous panelists have discussed, access is important. Access is how we're able to make any kind of leadway in any kind of progress. So I think they all answer to access, 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 access. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Keside. Thank you very much. Does any of our panel, I know we're conscious of time, but please let's feel free to chime in on these concepts. So is there any one of us who wants to lean in and add?
Yeah, let me lean in a bit into what Keside has started out with. I think at the bedrock of this whole diversity, equity, inclusion conversation at the human level and even at the sustainable systems level, the biggest issue we have is the inability for humans to engage with difference, right? Inability and our aversion towards conflict. We don't want conflict, so we don't invite difference, and we don't build the skills to engage and exist in difference, even down to Nigeria in terms of diversity. So for example, the gender diversity is like is one of the easiest to see, but when you come into a place and you also don't see ethnic diversity around the table in Nigeria, then I would say that is not the most competitive team, because we all have the edges we bring from how we have experienced the world. And if we don't bring different people from the north, south, east, midwest together, especially not all of them that have lived, let's say, for example, in Lagos, you have a team and everybody on that team has lived in Lagos. You're missing something, because if you bring someone that has lived in Castina into that team, there's a different way the person would think, even if the person is a male. So I think we need to really look at our context of diversity in terms of, yes, there's gender, but let's think about the lived experiences. You know, people around the table, everyone is a university graduate that went to, that has a master's. We are the people that went to polytechnics. We are the people that came in from the ranks in terms of electricians. They think the cognitive diversity is a bit different. There may be more arguments, let's say, in the meeting. And I think that is one skill I would like to advocate. We need to start thinking about how do we equip people, engineers, even our government in different places we are, with how to navigate conflict and how to engage in difference and even deliver projects in difference. Because we can't strive for homogeneity in a team all the time, because innovation needs a bit of divergent thinking, needs a bit of dissent to challenge it. So how do we navigate it and leverage on this difference so that we can get the power into what we are doing? So that's why I'm just thinking in terms of diversity, equity, and I've seen it work. I've seen the difference it makes. It's not easy. And I think Nigeria, we have a premium on time, like fast, no time, fast. So because of that fast thinking, we want, oh, please, fireman, I mean, I know you, let's come together, let's just deliver this, let's just make it fast. But sometimes taking the patience to engage and work with a diverse team, it's not an immediate click, but most of the time it is worth it. The product is definitely much better than when you work with people that you just have full alignment with, and they are same as you. Yeah.
Fantastic, Isioma. Fantastic.
Nice one, Isioma. In addition to even ethnical diversity, we also don't talk about in Nigeria diversity around disability. We don't really take care of our disabled, and they have a whole lot that they bring to the table. Like I know someone who, well, she doesn't believe she's disabled, and I don't believe either, but during her youth service, she worked in a particular organization, and her boss, took a liking to her, despite her disability, because she uses crutches. She was very, very, hardworking. She did the job of 5 people and all of that. At the end of the day, at the end of her service, it was that her boss that insisted that she must be employed so that they can meet that diversity and to tick the box for diversity and inclusion. And for the past 12 years or more, she has been working with that organization, and she is their star staff. She always comes tops during the exams, promotion exam, everything. She's a permanent fixture in the research unit. She's a permanent fixture in their monthly, although I don't want to be too open because I'm not sure she wants me to talk about her like openly like that, So, and they could have missed that if that her boss had not made that fight, to make sure that she got employed, letters, protests, because they were very reluctant. He made sure. It took him 2 years, but he achieved it. And she got a job. And now they are the better for it. And they thank him every day because she's a star staff in that organization. So we need to, but we don't also take care of our disabled. Our stairways, we make staircases very uneven, hardly done. We don't do, the rails for, disabled people to hold on. We don't have disabled toilets. We don't have disabled parking space. We don't, and they have a lot to bring to the table. Left-handed people as well. Well, I'm left-handed. Most of kitchen equipment, every time I'm cooking in the kitchen, it's like there's war going on. I'm dropping knife, I'm dropping I used to feel very bad until my husband drew my attention to the fact that most equipment are made with right-handed people in mind. But I had a very bad complex. I was clumsy until he explained to me that no, most of these things are made for right-handed people. So of course, it will be difficult for you to use. So we need to think, and this is market for someone. I mean, equipment for the left-handed, and we're many. There's so much that can come out of diversity, inclusion, a lot of equity, people feel they belong, and all of that.
Wow. I just don't want to miss even a point, so I'm kind of typing away. Thank you. This has been this has been really, really loaded. Thank you so much, Keside. Thank you, Isioma. Thank you, Amina. This is fantastic. The fact that we need to build the skills to engage in differences. Don't take it for granted that everyone can engage in differences, that everyone can appreciate the value of differences. And that's what kind of what I, one of the benefits of things like this, right? We're not assuming that culture, that attribute, that mindset of diversity, inclusion, equity is second nature to everyone. In fact, as a matter of fact, it's more non-second nature than it is second nature to people. So it requires education. It requires education, and that's kind of what one of the things Sioma said. We need to build those skills to engage in difference, appreciate the differences, and all the practical examples that you all gave around diversity, not employing a team with appropriate gender spread, not employing, okay, that, hey, perhaps we've made a whole lot of progress in that regards a little bit, but how about ethnic differences? How lived experience differences. You can imagine the dimensions and spectrum of diversity is a whole lot, and the value that it brings to have star of the team being someone who was almost the what's the business case for DEI? What's the business case? Strong. Do you know of any organizations with strong culture of DEI, and how has this impacted their progress? So I'll throw this open to the floor. Any one of you, Moji, Fayama, Nisioma, any one of you. I mean, do you know organizations, examples, that have strong DEI and how this has impacted them, and link this to the business case of us really discussing this concept?
Okay, so maybe I should take a little bit of that question first. So looking at organizations that have driven D&I, this is now becoming a conversation that is everywhere. Everyone is talking about it. But many years back, we're talking 20, 30 years, it was not really on the table for a lot of organizations. So looking at it from that perspective, I really want to spotlight a company like SLB, where I have worked for the past 18 years. Now, it does not mean that all the other organizations are not practicing D&I, because for so many years, we've seen that companies have females in functions like HR, administration, and other functional roles, legal, that are mostly pipelined by females, right? So organizations have done that and have put up systems to manage that demographic or those departments. But when we come to mainstreaming diversity in areas that are male dominated, I really spotlight a company like SLB, and if there are other companies who have also blazed the trail, it would be good to learn that from this panel. All right. So starting from the field in SLB, one of the criteria is a rigorous recruitment process. You will understand that the recruitment process is purely merit-based, so that even when you come to the table to have the conversation, they are not having one of the factors as whether it is male or female. That is incredible, and that is where, as I said earlier, sorry, I think I have a distraction here. Apologies.
No, it's fine. Bringing your whole self to the table. That's what we're talking about.
It happens all the time. So as I said earlier, I would like to see this conversation in the next few years where it's not even on the table anymore. But that is where it has been for SLB for a very long time, where the discussion is on merit, not on gender. And because of that, the wiring of the female in those organizations don't even understand what diversity means. Like, I come into a lot of meetings and they're discussing diversity, and I'm wondering, why are we even talking about it? Even bringing up the topic is a bit embarrassing for me. That's because of the wiring. So you go to the field, and I'm talking about working in the at the well site, right? And a few of us have had the opportunity to visit the field, and in that space, what everyone is looking for in those multi-million-dollar investments is results. by all means, please, what time do you have to be processing your gender? It's awkward, and this is what such an organization has done to push this forward. And then when the results come, the results do not carry on the label whether it was delivered by a man or a woman, right? And this format has enabled the organization tap into resource bases that are not traditional for the industry, building a pipeline of capable resources to deliver the technical results that are desired by the industry, the profitability that is desired by the industry. So this is one example. Now I've talked about the entrance level. What about the mid-career? All right, this is a place that a lot of organizations have struggled because females have their peculiar challenges, like Amina referred to a system-induced challenge where the tools that are designed are more suitable for a certain type of right-handed users. So these are stages where more system-induced challenges come up for women, and they have to balance a lot of life challenges. Organizations haven't done very well in this area, and that's why we see increased attrition of women when it comes to the mid-career level. But again, these conversations have now helped a great deal in managing that period as well. And that's why I actually embrace the conversations. I love them going on now because it deals with a certain group of women who are having specific challenges, right, in the career path. So these conversations are now bringing it to the fore that diversity and inclusion and equity needs to be addressed intentionally using policies, accommodations, technology, system design, and things like that. Now, when you come to the higher top management, top level management, again, you see that there is even an increased need for the conversation to be had, for organizations to embrace changes and adapt, right? Now, for SLB in the top management level, having come to an awareness that there is a gap, what they have done is roll out policies that in every team, 50% of the team should be constituted by women. Keside mentioned something very important earlier, that diversity is the knowing, inclusion is the practice. So what policies do is that they remind us of the practice. You walk into a room and you immediately spot that this team is not balanced. There's something missing, right? And at that point, the policies are what drive the change. Isioma also mentioned about the quick Indomie microwave speed with which Nigerians want to do things. That's a big factor, right? But policies help to tackle those kind of challenges. So yes, this is spotlighting an organization that drives diversity. I'm sure that it's done in many others. Yeah, we'll take examples from everyone. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Fayama. Thank you very much. This is a whole lot. So in the interest of time, we probably have less than 5 minutes. I'll probably crave the indulgence of the organizer if they could give us at least 7 minutes. So we wrap up at 1 sharp, and then they can have the closing formalities afterwards, if that's okay. So with respect to that, I'll crave the indulgence of my panelists to make the answers succinct, straight to the point, and also keep in mind that the questions I'm asking now is also more or less the final questions to each panelist. So it's also in addition your closing remarks as well. So I'll start off with Moji. So Moji, can you speak to any successful or attempted DEI initiatives or best practices in workplaces, that you're aware of, or even maybe ideas or thoughts, that you can recommend that you think would unleash best performance in our sector, in any corporate organization, as it were.
Thanks, Buchi. I'll be quick. I'll start with a story, a very short story. So in one of my former lives, I was a member of the employee development and retaining team in the organization that I worked for. And on this particular day, we got resignation letters from 3 women. And these were women in middle level, between middle and senior level. And, we're like, okay, I wasn't just going to let us accept the resignation letter. I wanted to have a one-to-one to understand what was going on. And when I spoke with each of them, it was really, oh, my husband he's been transferred and blah, blah, blah. And there's no company X. I mean, we don't have operations in that country. And to that extent, I need to resign so that I can, be with my husband and family. And I took that back and I said, okay, what can we do? And then decided, would you consider a situation where you have a rotation? So 2 weeks in country and then 2 weeks off, and you can be with your husband and with your family. Would you, discuss that with your spouse and see if that was acceptable? And they went back, had that discussion, and it was acceptable. And today, the women are still with that organization and are doing very, very well. So what's the point? I think for diversity, whether it's respect to age, gender, or race, or whatever other criteria, it's easy to attract those underrepresented groups, right? The challenge comes with retention. So as organizations, we must be deliberate about putting in policies that help with retaining those underrepresented groups. And those policies are not policies that we just write in one paper and say, yes, we have a policy on diversity, but those policies need to be policed. And as the operating environment changes, you also need to be flexible and adapt those policies to make sure that they're working and they're catering to your existing operating environment. So that's a success story that I'm extremely proud of. And I think as leaders and as business owners, as people that work in corporate organizations, we need to be flexible to ensure that those underrepresented groups are not only attracted to start, but they're retained as much as possible in the organizations that we work for. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Muji. Excellent. The impact of policy in ensuring that we achieve inclusion and equity. I'll turn over to you, Amina, for your final thoughts, and a question to you in that regards would be, as a DEI ally or advocate, what steps have you taken to create a culture of inclusiveness, a culture of equity, a culture of belonging in your space?
Okay, thank you for that question, Uchi. Yeah, well, as a DEI advocate, I think one of the things that I think I'm easygoing. I generally find it easy to relate with people. So I use that culture of open communication within my team, to foster, that. I encourage people, employees, my team, to speak with me, share their experiences, raise their concerns, provide me feedback and all of that. And it's been a win-win for everyone. And then considering where I am coming from, northeast part of the country, polygamy, large families. So I'm not used to eating alone. So most times when I come to the office, I usually come with my lunch or my breakfast or whatever, and I don't bring just for one. I bring enough for as many people as I can afford for that day. So, and that also sort of provides a milieu for us to sit down and discuss and all of that. So, and that became very useful to me when I was leading the team for overseeing all the retail outlets in FCT zone. retail outlets. So we all know the issues with retail outlets, fuel queues, all of that, and we're the ones in direct contact with the general populace. So anything wrong with the industry starts from that retail outlet. There's no fuel, no energy. Of course, we need it, our cars, our gens, our everything, you know? So because of that relationship I have with my team, including the drivers, so when I'm doing up rosters, it actually, I'll call it like accidental DEI because we were understaffed in my team and we needed to cover a lot of retail outlets. I mean, imagine covering all the retail outlets in FCT, you know? So I suggested to my boss that maybe we should also pull out people from other units, you know, to help us, you know? So we put an experienced person from downstream, put someone else maybe from account. So we had teams from everywhere, account, admin, everywhere. We pulled up, drew up the roster, did everything, you know, including drivers. We had roster for the drivers who would take us. So, and we used to have issues with, you know, when we're coming for inspection to check to make, why are you not selling fuel? Why are you increasing the price? You're not selling on government approved price and all. So some people actually even call, you know, to inform some of these filling stations, and then they are all prepared before we come and we are not able to, you know, do the appropriate thing. So, but because of that inclusion, even people were reporting each other. Drivers were coming to tell me, okay, when I was coming this morning, this filling station, this is what they were doing. Oh, madam, I think we should start from that. You know, so it really helped us to the extent that we did so well. You know, we even got a commendation from the then Minister of State, Honorable Minister of State for Petroleum, Kachuku, you know, because of the way we organized, you know, we're able to avert all the impending crisis around fuel and all of that. So yeah, I would say diversity and inclusion. Our accountant in the office who was leading one of the teams, you know, had some very good input to share with us on how to monitor those stations better, using inflow, outflow funds, accounting, auditing, everything. Madam, now if they bring this tank today, they are telling you this tank here, then it must balance now. So check their inflow, check their outflow, you know. So it was really, you know, so I would say diversity is it, inclusion, equity, it is. You know, it's a strong thing for any organization to move, especially for our energy industry, where we have to serve a lot of people, where we have to, you know, we're the lifeline of society. You know, energy security needs to development, sustainable development, and all of that. So yeah, I would say DEI all the way. Thank you very much. And so we should all go back and ensure that, you know, we continue to work towards a more sustainable, equitable future by educating people about DEI and embracing DEI in everything that we do. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Haji. I love how you speak from the heart and very natural in your examples. I mean, who won't feel included when your lunch has been provided? so I
Sometimes
definitely would have felt very.
Before you start thinking, a la carte. Sometimes it's just
it will
simple
still
bread
make me
and
feel
akara.
included.
Sometimes gari and sugar.
Wow, what very practical examples there. So I'll like to end with you, Isioma. So, but before you, I'll go to Casey. So Isioma, I would like for you to be succinct in a minute to speak about taking us back to energy sustainability. You know, why DEI is relevant, and you know, why a lack of DEI could be a risk to energy sustainability in just about a minute, as well as your closing comment. But first, I'd like to go to Casey and you know, hear your thoughts at a broader level. Do you think that I mean, we say it's a social issue, so it's everyone's issue, you know, I know, but do you think that the government should be interested in the issues of DEI? Why should they be? And you know, how can they really help and contribute in this space? And then your closing comment, very, very brief.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Buchi. Yes, the government should be fully invested. The government should be concerned, and it's just because it affects everyone, you know. I touched earlier on public sector partnership, public and private sector partnership. I think that's fantastic. I don't think anyone can solve anything by themselves. So I think collaboration is very, very critical, especially at this point where we are as a country, as a continent, just as people, we need each other. So yes, I don't think anything should be done in silos. I think yes, the government should be concerned because, I mean, I don't want to get too technical. It has value. We need to pay attention to this. Closing comment is really what a fantastic conversation we've had this morning, and I would like to thank Amina for that, for exposing me to the challenges of being left-handed. Again, it's something that I just never conceptually haven't thought about. I found myself, and it's a journey, and I would like to tell everyone on this call as well, it's a journey. I'm not perfect. No one knows all when it comes to, DEI. But I would like us to challenge ourselves to learn. I would like us to challenge ourselves with exposing what it is that we learn. I would like us to challenge ourselves to share these stories, to let people know that what is normal for you, it's not normal for another person. And you have to accommodate that. You have to sit with that. And you have to, it needs to be okay. Because that's how the other person feels comfortable to bring their own unique perspective, their unique skill to the table. And again, in the spirit of collaboration, things can be done in silos. Not all right-handed people can forge a pathway to the future. They can't all produce the technologies that we need to drive energy transition. We need to accommodate that. So even if when we're thinking around that, it's very important. So stories matter. They're very, very important. The reason that we believe that India beat Nigeria 99-1 in the 90s is not because we watched it on YouTube. It's because we were socialized to thinking that, nobody saw any video, nobody saw any picture, but we just grew up thinking, and believing that. And it's something that, where did that come from? It came from one person telling the other person, telling the other person, and that circulation is what is very, very critical. I know a lot of people say, we've had so much about it, it's a buzzword. I go on LinkedIn and I find it, yes, continue to do that. We need to expose ourselves to the realities of that, because that's the only way that we can have any kind of meaningful impact. And just one last thing with equity. Equity means, for me, it's just that idea that people should be themselves. I hear a lot of things about women in leadership and how, part of why women are not in leadership is because they have to run their family. And so what? Like, equity is saying, yes, they do have to run their family, but that shouldn't be a hindrance. If a female vice president cannot make a 3 p.m. soccer game because she has to go watch cannot make a board meeting or whatever because she has to go and watch her child play, that's okay. That is not a punishment, because guess what? That same woman will be up at 4 a.m, getting her children ready for school, and her laptop will be on, doing work when, other VPs, no VPs are sleeping because they work. It's just about that accommodation that we have to give to ourselves, male, female, whatever it is. We have to recognize that there's unique potential in each person, and they can come together. And that coalition is what will deliver us a sustainable future. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you very much, Keside. Thank you so much. Over to you, Isioma. So how relevant is all this talk about soft things, as some people describe it? How relevant is this to energy sustainability, and is lack of this DEI actually a risk in a minute, and then your closing comment?
Let me put up my hand. It's not going to be a minute, right?
Okay.
It has to be equitable. Okay, so let's go for it. So let me start with something I want to put out here, because I always tell people, maybe I'm anomaly, but I think there are more Isiomas out there. I carried 2 pregnancies in a field-based role till 7 months, right? I was pregnant with my child on the field and doing maintenance supervision till I was 8 months pregnant. But that is not for all women. Not all women can do it, but I did it because I wanted to, and a leader gave me a chance to do it, and it was safe. It was medically supported. So, but it's not common, because most people, once they just get pregnant, even if they want to, they are stopped. Even if it's medically safe, they are stopped. But if I didn't get that experience and didn't get support, I don't think I would have been able to grow through my career to be able to get to a point where I'm a production unit manager for 4 oil and gas producing facilities in Nigeria. But now moving to this whole system, this talk around merit-based, I have some concerns about merit-based and DEI. Merit-based systems the criteria are formed by a set of people. Who are those people? Are they all men determine what the criteria for merit-based is? There's no way, if it's all men determine the criteria for what merit is, that system can produce an equitable representation. And if the women are thriving within that system, I'm telling you, there are invisible costs that those women are bearing, but they are not bringing it to work. Most women are struggling in their homes in terms of marriages. Most women are struggling with their children, or most women are spending a lot of their money on outsourcing their caregiving responsibilities so they can show up correct for work. So we can say that, oh, we are gender blind, you know, we have a system is solely merit-based, but if we investigate how much cost the male person that makes it through the merit-based system is putting and how much the woman is putting, I want to challenge us. I say that the woman may most likely be putting in more because of our societal context. So I would say that when we put merit-based system, let's look at how we form the criteria and let's make it equitable. The top of the funnel, upstream of the funnel needs to be equitable so that more women and more people with, you know, diversity, not just women, but, you know, more people from their lived experience and all that can come through, and that merit doesn't just fit the dominant group. Okay, that's one. Now we come to sustainability, which is your question. So when you look at the innovative technologies coming up now, right? No matter what, we have all agreed there's going to be a hybrid system. It's going to be fossil fuel. It's going to be this, that. But the key skill we need in our system is, I think, a systems thinking capability. And we need to equip everybody, male, female, with that capability, because I was just looking at the study and you see that copper and steel are needed for the low carbon technologies. They are needed, like it's a lot, and it's already causing a problem because there's a copper supply problem booming, and it's predicted that I think by 2025, the demand for copper will outpace the supply. And this is needed for at least 8 of the low carbon proven renewable technologies going through. You also have the cases of illegal mining already. We are struggling with vandalism in Nigeria in terms of our oil. Most of the low carbon technologies are powered by minerals. So illegal mining will become a problem too. So we actually need interdisciplinary thinking on the table in how we are talking about a sustainable system. And when I mean interdisciplinary thinking, I'm not thinking just of the engineering. We need people that are professionals in security, right? We need people that are professional in behavioral science. We need people even from the arts, you know, geology, to come together to bring the system. And how do you bring such diverse skills together without the ability to thread them, like to include them and make a cohesive team out of these, you know, carpenter, engineer, everyone coming together. So we need to think like someone in a construction site, working with the bricklayer, the architect and everything. So that kind of thinking needs to come into, is what we need for our sustainable system. Now, when we talk, lastly, my final statement is around that cultivating that skill of innovation and managing change. I typically joke that women are used to change because their body changes every month. They're always reminded you have to manage and you have to succeed in that changing context. You need to show up for a meeting, you need to present. So that skill that helps us strive through that and helps us manage the kids and all that is actually needed in the leadership for today and tomorrow. So let's embrace it. Let's think of it as a system. Always look around the table, look beyond gender. If Amina, I grew up in the same area, and you know, even if her name is Northern and she grew up with cosmopolitan parents, then we are more homogeneous. I may have more value and more difference with someone that is maybe Igbo and grew up in the East. So let's think about in a systems point of view, and let's look at it as something we need, not an addendum, but something we actually need as a competitive edge in everything we do in sustainability. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Isioma. Thank you very much. This has been really loaded. This has been really loaded. I can't thank you all enough. And I want to also appreciate the participants. It's been quite engaged on the chat forum. Thanks to Adako and Princess and a couple others who have also responded to questions there. You've probably helped some of the audience to forgive me for not taking questions from the audience. But please do feel free to post your questions so we can provide answers to those questions subsequently. This has been really, really, really loaded and power-packed. I wish we had another hour to really unpack everything, but I know we've learned a whole lot today. I personally have learned a whole lot, around energy sustainability, the 4 A's, as Moji has described them, around energy equity, energy diversity, the need for the mix of everything, and thinking about the people you're providing it for, and indeed the very, very critical role that mixing the diverse human capital that is required to power this plays. So on that note, I'd like to once again thank you all so well for all these excellent expose, and yield the floor now to XP officials. I guess Rita or Princess is taking over from me, right?
Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Rita, a member of SPE DEI committee. I want to thank everyone for finding time to join us this week. We will be rounding off this week with, sorry, can you help with changing the slides? I don't think I have access. Thank you. We'll be rounding off this week with a fireside chat with industry professionals, which is coming up on Sunday, 30th of April 2023. So we have our young professionals will have a one-on-one section with senior professionals where they can ask questions about life in general, career-wise, and just to help them like for the future. Also, in a fortnight, May 13th, having Lagos section like before. Everybody knows that Lagos State YP programs are nothing to joke with. They are exciting, they're educative. So please look out for this program. On May 25th, the SPE Lagos Technical Symposium will be coming up with the theme creating an energy sustainable future for Nigeria, opportunities for indigenous capacity development. Please let's look out for these programs. SPE Lagos is not to bring technical programs, but we also know not to joke with our health, especially our mental health. So which the dates will be communicated soonest, which is themed intention focused wellness. Please let's look out for this program. Because we know a healthy mind is a better mind. To commemorate sorry, please go back. World Book Day, which was April 23rd last week, SPE Lagos is doing a book drive. So please, if you have not been using, please send it to SPE Lagos instead of them duplicating and wasting in the house. Kindly send it to SPE Lagos house. It is been much appreciated as we take it to schools and the village to also include them in knowledge sharing and knowledge acquisition. Thank you. More information you get if you engage us. So I implore you to engage us on LinkedIn at SPE Lagos section 61, on Twitter and Instagram, SPE for Lagos, on Facebook, SPE.Lagos, and we have a YouTube channel where you can watch videos of past events, and including this one, to just keep yourself abreast. Most importantly, I implore you to become an SPE member. And if you have not renewed your membership dues, this is you can go to the website spe.org/membership to do that on your own. But you can also contact Odion LC to help us with that. Being an SPE member comes with lots of benefits. For example, networking, personal development. I think I even got my job
being an SPE. So we have a lot of benefits like that. So please try to join us, SPE member. Okay, so we'll be going to the photo session. You know, at SPE events, we take pictures, but since even if this is virtual, we'll still take a picture. So I implore everyone to please turn on their cameras for photo session.
Hey, good afternoon, everyone. Yes, I'm on the call. It's been a great session so far. Thank you, everyone. Special recognition to the SPE Nigeria Council I see on the call. Thank you very much for the honor, sir. Okay. All right, so let's put on our cameras and our smiling faces and let's go clicking. Well, charity should begin at home, right? So let me turn on my camera as well. Okay, yes. Okay, so when we say SPA, you just do oil and gas or clean energy, whichever one is fine. Look, let's just do diversity. Let's just say today is diversity, right? So let's just say DEI diversity. So when I say DEI, you just say diversity and you do your thumbs up with a great smile. All right, let's go. DEI diversity.
Diversity.
Okay. So when I say DEI again, you say sustainability. DEI.
Sustainability.
Okay, I'll go to the next page. There are like how many pages here? Okay, I'll do the same here. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. All right, I'm done with the photograph and we'll go.
Thank you. Over to you, Buchi.
Okay, thank you, everyone. A very, very engaging and enlightening session. So many stories. I think I've even learned a lot myself, but just a brief recap before the vote of thanks. 1 minute, please. So just a brief recap before the vote of thanks. We had Prof give us the keynote speech, and there were a lot of takeaways from there, and I'll just quickly recap some of that I've noted down, and I guess everyone else would have noted some things down. It's important that we invoke D&I in everything we be able to address the energy crisis from the perspective, and Prof was kind enough to share energy sustainability from the perspective of diversity and humanizing energy. He went on to talk about the importance of creating and implementing policies. This policy will be able to promote energy equity, inclusion, and diversity. We know that it's important as well to not just create these policies, but ensure that we implement them and we police them so that they are adapted in our various organizations. Furthermore, I think Mojisola gave us the 4 A's, which was very, very practical. Availability, acceptability, accessibility, and affordability. And I think this is crucial. These are the core of everything we do, at the core of solving some of the issues we face with energy. KCD helped us to understand what diversity, inclusion, and equity are. So diversity is the understanding of it, in taking action, and equity is really accommodating and creating opportunities and collaborating with either the public, private sector to be able to solve the energy problems we have. We also talked about the importance of energy consumption and access, noting that it's key to economic growth and development. We also touched on the innovation, creativity, and technology and how important they are. Mrs. Isioma went ahead to talk about how we need to incorporate diversity in our conversations, different perspectives in everything we do in our conversations, in our team, so that we can get the best out of whatever project we're trying to achieve. Mrs. Amina shared, a lot of stories which I found very, intriguing and insightful, and these stories sort of resonate with me as well. So she touched on the need to always, always take D&I into consideration in everything we do. And Mrs. Fayama also talked briefly on the importance of diversity and inclusion in recruiting, and also in challenging, some of these policies and ensuring that we incorporate technology in whatever we do. Today has really been insightful, and we've also been challenged to ask ourselves, incorporating D&I everyday work, and also we'll also be challenged to be accommodating in everything we do. Lastly, Mrs. Ishama also touched on merit-based system and how we need to critically assess this merit-based system, so that we are not, led by the dominant group thinking. So on this note, I would like to say a big thank you to our distinguished resource persons for accepting to be part of this session. It's really been an honor to be a part of this wonderful event. And on behalf of the Society of Petroleum Engineers Lagos session, I would like to extend my heartfelt gratitude to all our esteemed guests, all our panelists, all our participants, and especially our keynote speaker who shed more light on this topic. I can't end this today without appreciating our volunteers and my chairperson, Princess, and our volunteers, Emmanuel and Rita, who have also made this a success, and other SPE board members and other members of the SPE legal session. Thank you once again, and we wish you a good rest of the day. Thank you. At this note, we will say thank you, everyone, and bye. Have a nice day.